He served as the Minister of International Trade under Stephen Harper. He was the Conservative Party's finance critic until yesterday, when the longtime MP Ed Fast announced he was stepping down from that position. It all came after he publicly said he was, quote, deeply troubled by Pierre Poilievre's plan to fire the Governor of the Bank of Canada as a result of the inflation crisis, which is something that Mr. Poilievre is campaigning on. Mr. Fast says the party is losing credibility over this kind of rhetoric. He's now co-chairing the Jean Charest leadership campaign. So is there a major fissure in the party about this issue? Let's bring in the former finance critic, the MP, Ed Fast. Mr. Fast, always a pleasure to have you on the program. Can you tell our viewers what finally led you to resign for your position as the finance critic?
Well, I finally determined that my position as finance critic for the party was becoming untenable, because the very things that a finance critic needs to speak to, such as monetary policy and fiscal policy, were things that one of the leadership campaigns felt I shouldn't be speaking up on, because they might conflict with policy positions that that candidate was promoting. So I felt that I was at a point now where not only could I not do my work at committee the way I needed to, I also couldn't speak publicly as frankly as I probably should. And so I asked our leader, Candice Bergen, to relieve me of my responsibilities, and she very graciously agreed to do that.
Pierre Poilievre has said, look, the Governor of the Bank of Canada's job is to keep inflation at 2%. It's at 6.8%. He's blowing it, and he believes that quantitative easing, or what he characterizes as printing money, is the cause of it. And he said he'd fire him because he failed to do his job. Why do those attacks make you uncomfortable, and what do you think the consequences of those attacks might be?
Well, the consequence of those attacks is that the global community is losing confidence in Canada and in our banking system, because we are now seeing political interference, or attempts at political interference, in our central bank, which is supposed to be free from that interference. It's supposed to be independent as it makes its decisions regarding monetary policy in Canada. But Evan, understand that inflation has a number of different causes. Some of those causes the government can control, like its borrowing and spending. And we've been very critical of the government's undisciplined borrowing and spending that is pumping more money into the economy and chasing the same number of goods, which of course can contribute to inflation. But how does a Bank of Canada governor anticipate a war in Ukraine or a drought across the prairies? You know, these are all things that contribute. The COVID pandemic, it was very difficult for central bankers around the world to see the COVID pandemic continue to morph into new variants. And these are all things that central banks have to grapple with. And by the way, these challenges have been faced around the world. You look at the Bank of England, the UK's got inflation at 9%. The US is not much better. And their Federal Reserve also has this very same challenges. Right. So what I'm saying is, attacking the central bank is not going to solve our inflation problems, although the central bank should be subject to oversight and criticism when it's appropriate. So we can certainly come forward and say the bank responded too late to the impending inflationary crisis. We could have seen interest rates slowly be increased at a much earlier time. But at the same time, there are so many other factors that are driving inflation that it would be unwise to suddenly say, well, our central bank doesn't work anymore. It's been given a task, and it's working to return our inflation levels back to the core rates of 2 to 3%.
Well, Mr. Poilievre has immediately criticized you. You're the co-chair of the Charest campaign, and he said Patrick Brown, he's also said Ed Fast, and Jean Charest support money printing that's caused out of control inflation. I will end money printing deficits. I will axe the carbon tax. I will replace the central bank governor. And do, I mean, he's doubling down on this. So I just ask you, leadership races are about a difference of policy. You obviously don't agree with that, so you've joined the charade camp. You disagree with Mr. Poilievre. But you seem to be suggesting that this is more than about two camps with two different views. You're saying this could have, after a leadership race, consequential long-term harm?
Yes, especially if someone that is promoting this policy of interference in our central bank becomes our leader. Because now the world is looking, saying, listen, what should we expect from a conservative government? Will this government continually interfere with the bank and undermine the expertise that is resident in the bank? It's not perfect. They've admitted they've made mistakes, but then we all make mistakes. And the central bank is one of those institutions that has served Canada for decades, if not over 100 years, and it has served us well. Not perfectly, but it has served us very, very well in maintaining inflation within core levels. So it would be a big mistake for us to underestimate how important this issue is, which is why, of course, it has provoked a lot of discussion within the Conservative leadership race.
Just last question. I know you're also very concerned about his promotion of cryptocurrencies as the former finance critic. But if he does win, and you know, frankly, the majority of your caucus supports Mr. Poilievre right now, could you serve under a Pierre Poilievre leadership? I mean, if he wins, would you run as an MP? Is there room for you in that party?
Listen, I'm firstly a member of the Conservative family, and we're having robust discussions about really important policy issues, and I'm engaged in those discussions. But at the end of the day, once we choose a leader, I hope our Conservative family comes together, supports that leader, and then focuses on the objective that we should have, which is to replace Justin Trudeau's incompetent and unethical government.
Okay. The co-chair of the charade campaign, no longer the finance critic, but very much, as you say now, free to campaign in a robust debate of important policy ideas, which I always encourage. Conservative MP Ed Fast, thank you, sir. I really appreciate you joining us.
You're very welcome.